Hello and welcome to Ask Bellco. This month, we'll learn about smart ways to consolidate your debt after the holiday shopping season. And joining us to talk about it is Chris Rychlec. She's Associate Director of Bellco's Real Estate Portfolio. Chris, welcome to Ask Bellco.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. We have talked a lot on our show about how Colorado's economy is doing quite well. I have heard the term booming used. So it's holiday shopping season, right? So are we seeing more spending as a result of that booming economy?
Well, I think thanks to a healthy economy, people are out in the marketplace, they're spending. The holidays are no exception to this.
Sure.
But debt is escalating. We're starting to see this escalate. In fact, debt's at its highest all-time high.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so as people are a little more comfortable incurring that debt, it also begins to eat away at your monthly cash.
Well, it sounds like it would. You know, that you bring up an interesting point, because when you think about a booming economy, when you think about, you know, doing, I hear the Broadway song, "We're in the money," you know, and so you're spending, and you know, let's go crazy and everything. But you're saying that even though maybe people are making more money, they're maybe also increasing their debt. So talk a little bit about what you mean when you say it's eating into their monthly spending money.
So as people are earning more money and unemployment is low. However, the cost of goods and services continue to increase as well. So that becomes harder to put away cash that you might need for planned purchases or unexpected situations that come up. If the market were to turn or we entered a recession, money becomes a little bit tighter. All of a sudden we're in a position of having to much more closely manage that cash flow.
Yeah.
And
it seems, you know, actually it's so funny because I was just having a conversation with my brother last night about how when you get a raise at work or when you're bringing in a little bit more money home, you get used to that new lifestyle and that new amount of money really fast. And it can be hard to get, when, like you said, when that shrinks, because markets always change and turn. Right. It's going to happen at some point. It can be real hard to adjust back to that. So it sounds to me like you're kind of suggesting that maybe this big economy is creating a little bit of overconfidence in some shoppers and things like that. So what are some things that people could do to avoid getting into post-holiday debt?
well, I always think the best plan is to sock away money if you can do that.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit on the last episode.
So you put it away if you can, but that's easier said than done. It's hard to do that when your expenditures are, they're increasing. So I think about this in terms of cash flow.
Yeah.
Money in, money out.
Yeah.
And sometimes to generate your own personal cash flow, it's easier to cut expenses than it is to generate more income.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
So we think about this and we think about, okay, we all hear the stories about cut out that expensive cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe brown bag. Those are all practical tips, right? But let's start to think a little bit deeper. What else can we do? So even something as simple as your financial institution, perhaps you're paying bank fees, when if you just moved your account to a different type of account and started to generate some interest income, well, now you've just replaced an expense for income. That's cash flow, right?
That's a great. So you're saying that people might want to look at their interest rates and things like that, and see if they might be able to get a better deal or a better account. Kind of just sit down at the dining room table with your with your laptop and maybe do some homework for an evening, but walk away maybe cutting some expenses. And I like what you said. Taking some of those expenses and turning them into income is a really smart idea. And so go ahead. What were you going to say?
So we dig a little bit deeper. Right? And just as you said, we start to evaluate our high interest rate credit cards. We look at our car loans. We look at our home loans. And we think about, well, how can we cut those rates? Can we perhaps do a refinance? Can we look at a balance transfer? Anything to kind of shrink those monthly payments so we have more money in our pockets.
I love this idea.
Yeah.
I think it sounds great. So I also really like what you were talking about the idea of cash flow. Are there different options for kind of improving my cash flow, or do I have options like in the last episode we used the phrase plastic fantastic, right? Where I'm going to do my holiday shopping this year by whipping out the MasterCard, and it'll just all go on that. And when I'm done, I got a massive mountain of MasterCard debt to pay. Is there another option there? Is there another way to get at that?
Well, again, I think for those planned expenditures, try to put the money away for that. The holidays come every year, right?
Yeah.
They come faster every year, but they do come every year. Again, it goes back to cash flow. So I think, one option might be the time to look at refinancing, perhaps take out a home equity line of credit. Values in our homes are at the highest point ever. We might have some equity to use to consolidate our debt or perhaps put some money away for emergencies if we need that.
So you're talking about maybe leveraging your home to come up with some cash for these kinds of expenses. How would somebody go about doing that?
Well, there's usually a cash-out refinance option that can be offered.
And let's slow that down. Cash-out refinance. Just walk me through that real quick.
So a cash-out refinance is when you take your first mortgage on your home and perhaps you pull out some of the equity from your home and pay off some of your high-interest debt. They call it a cash out because you're refinancing more than just your first mortgage balance.
I see. Okay.
Or perhaps you could do a home equity line of credit and debt consolidate that way.
Sure.
Okay,
that's great. So either of those it sounds like that would both improve cash flow and maybe also consolidate your debt. Is that right?
Yeah, it could work that way. We figure if you're paying a couple hundred here on a credit card, a few hundred there, this and that, maybe your home mortgage payment goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
But your outflow is less. The cash going out.
So maybe
is
that
a bit
particular
less.
payment went up, but you've paid off some debts, and so your total out is not as high.
Right.
But we're using this word refinancing. That sounds expensive to me. Is it expensive?
It doesn't have to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Well, tell us about that.
So home equity, like for instance, our home equity line of credit, there's no closing costs on that if you take out a $5,000 draw at the time of funding. But let's talk about first mortgages a bit.
Okay.
Because the rates have gone up. We've all heard it, right? You might have a 5% home mortgage rate right now. But you might have a 17% interest rate on your credit card.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
So net when you pay that off. But I want to be thoughtful about refis. We need to kind of think about that because
it sounds like something you'd really want to kind of decide if it's something that's right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about management of that because you're really replacing one debt for another. What you want to do is look at that and make sure that you're thinking about the term of your mortgage. Can you perhaps reduce that term as well? But make that a thoughtful decision. A refi it's a big financial transaction.
And if somebody decided that there was something that they wanted to consider, let's say, for example, a Bellco member, where would they start? Should they walk into a Bellco and ask for a certain type of specialist, or can they pick up the phone? Where would be a good place for somebody to start who's interested in this at home?
Yes, they could absolutely walk into a Bellco branch. We have a team of mortgage professionals. This is what they do for a living. They evaluate your credit report. They look at your monthly expenditures. They look at where you want to be in the future and can really help to guide that transaction. So I always say consult a professional.
it sounds to me like these are big decisions, and that you would want the advice of a professional.
Yep.
And it sounds like this mortgage team are that group of professionals that you would want.
Yes, they certainly.
I think that they are very lucky to have you on that team of professionals. As a professional, do you have any last things that you want to share with the folks at home about any of the things we've been talking about today?
Well, I've shared some tips on cash flow and debt consolidation and refinancing, and I do want to circle back around to refinancing. So what we want to make sure that we're not using our homes as ATM machines.
Oh, yeah, that
right?
doesn't sound
We're
good.
not pulling out cash and then racking up our debt again and refinancing again and getting into this kind of vicious cycle. I think we want to think about our homes as a pretty valuable savings account.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good tool if we manage it carefully.
Right.
Right? And it'll help us build our financial futures.
I like the term that you just used. It's a good tool. It kind of seems like that's what maybe another good word to use for it is, rather than thinking about it as just the place that you live, or like you said, an APM. It's one of many tools in kind of your portfolio of investments and the assets that you have available to you. Do I have that about right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like I learned so much today. Will you come back and talk with us again?
Oh, sure.
We would love to have you. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us. Now, next month, we're going to discuss investment and retirement planning in today's uncertain environment. So check that out. We'll see you then.